no longer need you to stand by. We're ready to start the Heroes Global Championship. My name is Trixler, and I'm joined by the Iron Man himself, Caldor.
Hey.
Good morning, buddy. Are you ready to get started?
Yeah, I definitely am. I had my coffee and we're ready to go.
Well, let's do it. Let's get started here. Zealots and Expert will be facing off, and they have some words to share about the matchup coming your way.
The team spirit right now is pretty good. We're pretty confident on what's coming. We're so happy with being in the league. And we expect to keep improving and keep scratching games from the better teams. Our first week was pretty decent. We didn't expect to win so convincingly against playing decks. Expert is one of the hardest teams to play against because you never know what they're going to do. They are always thinking out of the box, pulling out new strats and playing different things. And they also stepped up with picking up Atero. But I think we have what it takes to win against them. I expect a pretty close series. But in the end, I expect us to win.
So Zealots are a new team, and even though they played 2 matches, it's still very hard to tell how strong they are, because they won 3-0 versus playing Ducks, but then they fell versus Fnatic, so we are not sure what we can expect from them. I think it will depend a lot if they have any drafts that are strong versus what we play, and if their meta is stronger, I can see them even winning versus us.
I think the matches today are pretty important for us here that are on the fence. Where are the good guys? Where are Zealots currently standing in the entire standings for our teams? Is Expert still that number 4 spot, or are they going to start falling? It's very important for the matches today.
Yeah, it's a really interesting day and a really interesting week. We talked yesterday about how it's extremely difficult to judge where the teams are. I think we know by now that we have our big 3 back, so the top 3, that's kind of settled, I think. Who is going to take the number 1 spot is, of course, going to be the big question there. But when it comes to the rest of the league, that's a completely different matter, because right now we have absolutely no idea who will go down into the Crucible, who will have a shot to rival and maybe the 3rd spot or establish themselves on the 4th. So this day should tell us quite a bit, to at least give us a bit of a direction.
Yeah, it's all about defining standings where our teams are. Let's go ahead and get it started here. Battleground for game number 1. We are going to tomb the Spider Queen. Expert will have the choice here, which does mean the Zealots will be walking away the first pick and first ban of the game.
I'm seriously hyped to see the Zealots here today. Expert is always a pleasure to watch. They have always some special strategies prepared. Now with the Thero, they are stronger than ever. At the same time, the Zealots were able to really surprise in the first week, and I'm curious to see what they can pull off here now.
Yeah, beating the playing Ducks. They did lose out to Fnatic, but hey, you can't really hate on that too much. Kind of a difficult task as is. I mean, we saw Fnatic yesterday against Team Liquid, and they are still looking impressive. The Zealots here got to put it all on the line. Let's see how they stack up against those that are currently in the middle of the pack. Expert and Crew will be looking to gain their first win of the season, by the way. They also lost last week.
The one thing I really expect from this series overall is that we are going to see quite a bit of Malthael.
Yeah.
We've seen him yesterday in Europe quite a bit, even in North America in our second series of the day he was played, but especially Europe seems to have a very high focus on the hero now. And for now, the Zealots, they start with a ban against ADRD, so they are trying to get rid of Medivh, which ADRD has used in the past for Team Expert on this map. And we have a Stitches ban. No Genji ban, no Uther ban.
Stitches being banned out here. To be fair, we saw Mopsio on that Stitches a few times last week, and overall he did pretty all right, but there was never really a moment where we got to see him on a different tank. Perhaps Expert thinks that Zealots were really banking on that Stitches.
The Zealots already heading straight into the Oriel, so we are looking at the beginning of another double support combo. And that has been the big theme of yesterday and even last week. Double supports in Europe are everywhere. Right?
Yeah, it got to the point yesterday where our first 3 picks were actually all supports, which was absolutely bonkers to see. And if any team is going to shake that up, I'm putting it on Expert here. The Expert's the team in the first phase that we saw them always come out with different strategies. They introduced a triple support back in the day before anyone else would pull it off. And so Expert coming in, I'm hoping that they're going to show a little bit of new stuff here, some new flavors to the meta that we're already seeing form.
I could definitely see that. I believe that they have a lot of drafts around the double support. Every single European team has right now at least dabbled in the strategy. And we've seen, I think, yesterday mostly, I think Fnatic was actually one of the few teams that was able to break through the double support. Most of the games that we had were double support versus double support combination. And we have a Nubarak starting things off here. Keep in mind, Uther still around, but they prioritized Tassadar over the Uther pick just because they themselves are currently thinking about heading into a double support combo.
Interesting, though. They do leave Uther up for the Zealots. Will the Zealots move into said pick, though, with that Oriole? Typically, it is something that you see pretty often. You can mix it in with any of those hyper carries. Vola's still on the table here, and we'll have to see what we go for it. Another person that I'm looking forward to watching, Shad. Shad did such a good job last week of impressing me. He's the guy that I'm looking at in this team.
You didn't know him before he came into HGC, right?
No, I didn't, but I know he's been around for a while, right?
But it's really funny to me that you fanboy him that hard, because when he popped up and started to play all, like, the Vikings, he played Abathur, everybody was, oh my god, look at that. He's so good at playing these heroes. So you just have that.
I'm jumping on the bandwagon here.
Exactly. It's really funny, since he just popped up into HGC again on the top level, and just seeing your enthusiasm for his play is really cool.
That is awesome, dude. So I'm definitely there on the EU meta cheering for the Shad player. So we'll see Shad, see what he pulls out. Okay, Zealots come out. They pick up Oriole, Chromie, and Johanna.
Okay, I just want to put that out here quickly. Uther hasn't been picked or banned yet.
Or Genji, by the way.
Both of them, and that is crazy. We have currently 2 heroes that have a 100% participation rate in HGC Europe. That's Nubarak and that's Uther. And normally when we're talking about Uther, if he's not banned, he's the first pick. Seeing him fall this low in the current draft that we have between the two teams, that is pretty insane.
I'm pretty okay with it, though. I'm down for variety here. Both teams coming out with some different strategies, and I'm ready to see how it pays off. For me, it's important to see how this draft continues forward. For Zealots, I think you have to ban the Genji, especially with Team Expert having a 3rd and 4th slot pickup. Chromie has fallen out pretty heavily because of that mobility. The moment Genji jumps in, he knocks her health bar down a 3rd, and then you just bring in the shurikens and you destroy.
The interesting part for me now is also that Expert is looking at the Vala and saying, well, let's get rid of her. They are still afraid that Zealots might head into the 2nd support and then get the hyper carry auto attacker. More so than they are afraid of the potential Uther being combined with Oriole. Probably because they themselves would like to pick Uther. They have Tassadar already. So they're saying, if you want to ban Uther out, that's fine. We can still fall back onto Rhaegar, for example. But the Zealots have to make that choice now. And what do you ban at this point? Do you try to ban the potential hyper carry, an Illidan, Lunara, whatever you feel your opponent is strong with, Malthael even? Or do you go into the Uther ban instead?
My Chromie brain says Genji no matter what. You just ban it here. You don't allow it to float around. But you do bring up some serious points here. The mix-up of Tassadar into an Uther with any of those hyper carries, Illidan will be the choice, and the Zealots will be taking it out.
So basically, Zealots with the Illidan ban are signaling that they are okay dealing with an Uther and Tassadar combo with any other hero. Being that a Lunara, being that the Genji, they are fine dealing with that. They are more so afraid of Illidan just diving into the backline and disrupting everything. And that's especially since they don't really have too many stuns. The Taman Strike can be a good tool around the turn-in spot. You have Johanna too, but especially Chromie is quite vulnerable against the Illidan as well. And you're currently looking at Zealots running a combination that does not have a cleanse. So you can really do a lot with Hunt. And correct me if I'm wrong, you being the Chromie player here, but as far as I know, Chromie doesn't like to get hunted.
She doesn't like to get hunted. You can play around it with time traps if you know where it's coming from, if you play that next level, which is what Chromie is all about. A Doral Anomaly as well later on does shut down Illidan pretty heavily, but you're also banking on getting to level 18. So, Zealots here are going to have to deal with the Greymane, as that will be the pickup here for Expert. Uther as well, so he finally makes it in on that 4th rotation. Odd to see, but hey, it's Expert and Zealots we're watching.
Yeah, also we do not have a solo laner for Expert yet. Keep in mind on Tomb of the Spider Queen, the 1-4 split is very common. So you have a single hero at the bot lane and the remaining 4 rotate between the mid and the top lane, trying to clear the waves. And that wave clear is something that's really important. A lot of amateur teams that you see running a 1-4 split oftentimes don't really understand what the 4 are supposed to do, and they're just trying to fight the entire time. Your main goal is just clear the waves and make your opponent trying to catch up to you.
Yeah, that is usually the main typical goal. There are kill comps where you're hoping to get some kills and then go from there, but most of the time, yes, you should be trying to put yourself in a spot where you have superior wave clear compared to your opponent. And for Zealots right now, their wave clear is all banking on Johanna here and the sweeps from the Oriole. Chromie's going to be the one that's trying to poke from the side and helping out when need be. But Expert is at a good spot. They have Tassadar here who does well and clear, and Greymane at the same time.
How do you like the stupid avatar, by the way?
I love it.
He had it stitches the wrong way.
This guy spent 9 minutes.
That is so
probably
much
an over-exaggeration, a bit
You
hyperbole.
topple it over twice.
But
It
he
was
spent forever setting this up. In fact, I'm going to reveal the magic here. He actually put a water bottle behind
It was
to hold
perfectly balanced, and then he toppled it.
That's how I roll, man. I'm here to mess it up.
Dehaka and Cassia. Okay, so Dehaka for our solo lane here. We have a solo support on the Chromie, mainly as a range damage, and the Cassia, of course, also providing a lot of hope here for Oriel. But yeah, Zealots not jumping on the double support bandwagon just yet. Expert, on the other hand, what's going to be the solo lane? A Theros hero, most likely.
Yeah. Could you see a world where an Alarak is picked up here? Is that a bit bold? Alarak or Leoric are the two that I think of for a Thuro. Oh, okay, just kidding. There's Malthael. There we go.
I was
Boom.
expecting the Malthael, as I said before, but your Alarak is a good point. Thero is one of the players that has often said he feels Alarak has a place. The stars have to align to really make him shine in the situation, but he is one of the players that, even before the rework, said Alarak has a place in the meta. If a situation arises, I want to play him. So I could have seen them saying, hey, maybe it fits here, but Malthael is a really good choice for them.
Yeah.
And I've seen him run the Malthael on this map before, so they have him on the bot lane. And I'm curious to see how it works out against Dehaka.
Should do pretty well against Dehaka. He's also great here for Johanna, burning her down.
Yeah.
She's going to have a harder time being in that front line for that wave clear. Maybe have to burn Iron Skin more often than she would like. I think Alarak is actually good here. You're talking about the stars aligning. This is actually a really good composition for Alarak to be effective. If you catch Oriel or Chromie, which is pretty easy to pull off, especially if they go Bronze Talons, they have to get in range. You can pull them in and punish them. At the same time, you have Cassia. If you ever displace her, she's usually in a spot where she's going to get picked off. However, it will be the Malthael, and it's his job to clear up these tanks.
I'm really afraid whenever I see a Malthael right now. You have to also remember that we are currently playing the Malthael patch, so we play the version before the hotfix, before Malthael numbers got tweaked. So he's even a bit stronger at this point. And in the late game, he can destroy. We have seen some insane plays with Malthael already, but a lot of the teams still dabble and see, okay, how do we have to play with him? How does he fit into our meta, into our playstyle? But now that we are going into the second day of this weekend, you can really tell that players are starting to figure it out a little bit more, especially when you talk to them in person and you ask, okay, where do you see him at this point?
Yeah, it seems like whenever that quest at 4 is finished up and then the spike at 16, Malthael just becomes an absolute beast.
Yeah.
So we'll keep an eye on that quest for you guys at home. Let's go ahead and get this party started. Game number 1, Expert taking on the Zealots. Who's going to take away the best of 5 series? Just kidding. We're coming back. Bring it back, Josh. Here we go. Yes, there we are.
Stop it there.
Framed perfectly.
Yeah, thank you, Josh.
Nice.
Okay.
A little bit of a setup. Give it 1 second here. We'll go ahead and jump back into the game in a few moments. We're going to make sure our players are good to go.
Yeah, Tim was just trying to test production a little bit.
Yeah.
You might have heard that we had some audio issues in the morning. I didn't want to reveal it, but it was actually Tim pressing a red button. I told him twice not to, so we're testing them a bit. We need to keep production on their toes.
Yeah. You know, if there's a button around, you got to push it. You know, it's just, that's life.
Especially
if you don't
when
push
it's red.
buttons, sometimes you feel regret. And I don't want to feel regret for missing on the button. So I went ahead and I pushed it. It looks like our teams are getting ready to go. They're all grouping up on the side. Oh, we actually got to leave this match here as the drop did set up. So we'll be right back in a couple of minutes and get into that game. But for now, we're going to go ahead and continue focusing on the draft. The draft, I think, is something that looks really, really good here for Zealots. In fact, I'm kind of happy they came out in 2 minutes Spider Queen and brought Chromie back. This is actually the first time in Phase 2 that we see Chromie and Johanna picked up in the HGC. So it's good to see some Phase 1 shenanigans coming back.
I knew that if I give you 10 seconds to talk about the draft, you're going to jump on the Chromie.
I mean, I miss her, dude. I mean,
I can tell.
Genji and Diva came in, and they decided to be mobile and just ruin everyone that likes to stand still. And so Chromie's just having a hard time here. But Zealots, they're here to prove everyone wrong.
Yeah.
Boom.
And if you think about it, Zealots played against a team that has run the Chromie several times, to an extent where Chromie got banned against Zealots because people said ADRD might not quite be on the level of Chris and Mena and Shrimpy on the hero, but he is still pretty good, and they love to run it here, so let's get rid of it.
I do want to wonder a little bit here is if Team Expert, do they not run Genji very often? Is that why Zealots were willing to take this risk? It's good for 2 minutes Spider Queen, Chromie and Johanna. I think you could get away with the Genji being picked up, but is this more of, hey, Expert, you don't play Genji, let's try and exploit that?
No, that's definitely not the case.
Okay.
Expert, they play Genji. They have a lot of Genji comms. I think there is not a single team that can afford to not play Genji at this point. So it just has not really fit into this for them. And they were thinking about it for a long time. The Chromie was also picked relatively early, so they could have adapted here. But in the second rotation, they started with the Anubarak and the Tassadar. So in the second rotation, you want to have, first of all, the Uther. That's more or less a given. And then you have the choice between, if you're already thinking about Malthael for the solo lane, and that you need a solo laner, you have to make the choice between either Greymane or you go into the Genji.
or something, yeah.
And with this setup, they just said that Greymane fits better into what they're trying to do. But I could have seen them head into a Genji instead if they think they can get into the late game with Malthael and then just Genji finishing off the kills. That would work. I feel the problem they have here is that Genji just doesn't have the wave clear that Greymane offers. And when you're playing on Tomb of the Spider Queen, if you lose the early game too hard, then you might never get to that point where Malthael can carry you in the later stages. So I think that was the thought process here, that they just said we have this one spot. It has to be either Greymane or Genji. Greymane has more wave clear for us. He has the poke with a cocktail, so we need to take him for this map.
A little clever draft pick there from the Zealots, trying to call out Team Expert and see if they would go for that Greymane. And obviously they have the wave clear here. I do like the ending parts of this draft, though. The Uther into the Malthael. Malthael just does a really good job on a majority of those solo lanes. And in a spot here where the team can rotate down and help him out if need be. I think the one criticism that I do see with Malthael is that if he gets ganked, he can have a hard time getting an escape here. Now, we'll be right back. We're going to make sure our players are ready to go and start game number 1. Thank you for joining. This is the HGC.
Experience has taught the Protoss that when we do not fight together, we die alone. But we shall not see defeat this day. For we stand as one. Our differences will not divide us, but make us stronger. Together, we will defend the Nexus with honor and earn our glory. I am Hierarch Artanis, leader of all Protoss. And in unity, there is strength.
The demon Asmodan had his ultimate victory within reach, until the opposing heroes dealt him a devastating defeat. Asmodan went back to the drawing board and rediscovered his love of the game. The Lord of Sin became the Lord of the Slam.
This is my house. Let's see if you've got game. Welcome to my jam.
I once ruled Ashul Nerub. Then came a war I could not win. I was forced into servitude. But here, in this strange place, no one commands my power! I will conquer the Nexus! Those who oppose me shall embrace the web of death. I am Anubarak. I ruled once before. I shall rule again!
When I was young, I lived a life of recklessness. In my selfishness, I inflicted pain and hurt those I cared for. I have learned many lessons in my struggles with doubt and fear. harmony are not easily attained. They must be fought for! But on my journey, I have learned another lesson. You do not have to fight alone.
Let's do this!
A little birdie told me that the game has started, so let's do it. Let's jump into it. Tomb of the Spider Queen, Expert, taking on Zealots, game number 1. And I hope this is really happening because I don't want to be a liar. Here we go, Caldor.
Hashtag blame Josh. Team Expert going up against Team Zealots, ladies and gentlemen. And Tomb of the Spider Queen, and to the left side, it is the Experts with 80 RD on Tassadar, Bad Benny on Anubarak, Curse on Uther, Malthael played by Aethero, and we have Nick on Greymane.
On the right side, in the red, it will be the Zealots. Zarmany playing Dahaka, Shad playing Chromie. Ooh, Shad on Chromie, nice. Poik on Cassia, Grandpa on Oriole, and Mopsio on Johanna.
Mopsy on the Johanna here, and Grandpa rocking the Oriole. I'm a little bit hyped for this. The Zealots were looking really strong so far in this season. They just came into the HGC. They went through the Crucible and qualified. And everybody just thought, all right, let's see how good they actually are. What can they do? And all of a sudden, they 3-0'd in their first series. It was pretty amazing. And they have to prove themselves this weekend and prove that it was not a fluke. Going up against a team that will most likely be one of their direct competitors in the standings.
That's right. This is probably their most, well, I wouldn't say biggest test. Their biggest test was against Fnatic, and that one fought pretty hard. But I would say this is probably their most legitimate test to get a real understanding of where they are as a team. Playing against Team Expert is no joke here, as Expert has always been one of those that is currently sitting on the cusp of that top 4. And so we're going to see what Expert can pull off against them. For now, it's all about the wave clear. I'm going to be watching Mopsio in particular. He's got to make sure to clear out those middle lanes.
And also another hero that we are going to watch here is, of course, Malthael. We're going to take a closer look at his build once again, since the hero appears here only for the second day in HGC Europe. And on level 1, it is Death's Reach, which increases the Wraith strike range by roughly 30%. Did you just drop my Abathur Stitches?
I gotta see the talent screen, man. Uther in trouble, Curse and taking some damage, and he's gonna fall. Zealot coming out and getting first blood.
Stop trying to distract me.
Sorry, man.
You'll pay for it.
I didn't mean to drop your stitches here.
Okay.
We'll put them back later.
All right, so coming back to the Malthael here. So the Death's Reach on level 1 is most of the time, it's basically 2 talents that you see popping up in competitive play right now. The Death's Reach and Fear the Reaper. And most of the time it will be the increase of the range that we see here. The one constant that we have seen in all the games so far has been the Black Harvest as the stack or the quest talent on level 4. And it's absolutely amazing since it actually increases your trade duration by 2 seconds once you have the quest completed. And this goes really well with later talents on 13 and especially 16, where Malthael completely hits a massive, massive power spike. So while we're going through the game here, keep that in mind. Malthael at that solo lane is already pressuring the Haka, but his real strength for the team fights will unfold later on.
You gotta know the reason why Malthael is being so effective here is it's a pretty good matchup already for Malthael, but we had a rotation in the bottom lane, put a lot of pressure on Zarmany. They're expecting to keep Zarmany at bay and back him up, simply because the Zealots have such a strong rotation in terms of that 4-man you were talking about. The wave play here between Johanna and Chromie is pretty darn effective. They keep using the Dragon's Breath to clear out the back lane while Johanna moves forward and clears out a lane. So Zealots are going to be doing their best in the top and middle, while Team Expert wants to body that bottom.
Also, Expert not picking the level 4 on Tassadar yet. And now we have it. Okay, they go for the Life Leech. We have seen two different talents taken quite a bit. The extra armor upon breaking the shield, and in this case, the Life Leech. Both of them are very strong. It always depends on what the situation demands from you. And against the Chromie, I could have definitely seen them going into the extra armor instead, just because this will break those shields a lot, and you can give the target just a little bit more sustainability.
I think I agree with you, actually. I prefer that armor much more, especially on a Greymane. He's not the most effective auto attacker. Yes, he can be effective. He gets in that line, gets enough life steal going overall, but you should be good with the Uther, and the armor will give you that longevity that you need in those fights. However, we'll see how this pays off for the Tassadar as we continue to keep an experience pretty close. It's 6-6 for our teams. Nothing major has happened. The bottom lanes have pushed in pretty well for the Malthael. He's even gotten a turret. Ooh, hang on. Zarmany almost trying to get a kill, but Thorough will get out of there easily.
It's so far a pretty even fight that we are seeing between the two teams for sure. And we have maybe a bit of a lead for the Expert when it comes to structural advantage, but it's all about the turn-in at this point. Greymane poking away the entire time, and the Zealots, of course, eager to get the turn-in themselves, but it is the Experts that are getting closer and closer to delivering the 50 gems.
Closer and closer, only 11 away, and Zealots themselves could answer back if they get some control here. There they were trying to get the kill on Tassadar, but he easily gets away. Dimensional Shift being available as well. Always great for watching out for those ganks. And the Zealots, it's kind of interesting for me. They are just simply focused on wave clear, period. Their harassment has actually been coming from Cassia, whereas Shad has been going straight to the lanes and consistently dropping these Dragon Eyes on the wave. See, he does it again here. They definitely want to be able to be the ones to first turn in. That's a key indicator. The problem is, Team Expert's doing a good job of stopping his pushes from coming in. They're clearing out well too.
Yeah, and Zealots are trying to get that turn in, but of course with only 11 gems missing for Team Expert, the Zealots have to monitor what's happening around the two turn-in points. This is where Chromie with her level 1 also delivers, of course, a lot of vision that can help you. But the blue Web Weavers are still the ones descending first as we see Curson turn in the last few and straight going for it here. So for now, the Zealots will have to make sure that they defeat the Web Weaver wave and don't lose too many structures. And especially the bot lane is something we have to look towards, because right now, Malthael is pulling their Haka to an extreme.
He's absolutely destroying the bottom lane. Both turrets have been used here. It's going to be on the wave down. It's going to be moving straight into the port. Team Expert is actually putting a lot of pressure on this top lane, which allows for them later here on the second punch to move down to that bottom lane, start breaking in the fort. Zealots have to bring everyone up here to clear, and honestly, their Web Weaver clear is kind of okay. It's not the best in the world. They need to clear out the back lane first. Oh, but Nick taking damage.
So close to falling here as we see Shad hammer away with a Chromie towards the back line. But talking about push power, down to the bottom of the map, Malthael is really bringing the pain right now. And the Haka attempting to somehow defend the structures, but it's just not happening. Ethereal is too strong, and Zarmany is at this point so low that he has to be afraid of falling, so he is staying way behind. With 28 gems, you just can't afford to die.
Thorough is destroying that lane, and he continues to do so. That fort finally does fall, and Team Expert will take a substantial lead here in experience, jumping up to 9.5, where Zealots are about to hit 9 in a second. Zealots are looking for a kill, though. They're hoping that if they can get someone pushed out of the fight here for Team Expert, they can go for their own turn-in, which would allow for them to equalize the pressure that came their way already.
They have 74 gems. They haven't lost a hero yet, so it's really cool for them to hold this many. The big question remains, can they turn them in? And the level 10 ability, that is really what Expert wants to get now. Once they have the heroic ability, the Zealots will have to back off and wait until they reach the next level themselves.
Well, Chromie is so good, she already has a heroic ability. She just picked up Slowing Sands, and she is peeling in the top left here on this turn-in point. However, Expert's doing a really good job. Bad Benny moving forward, watching the bush control here, and having Uther on the back, Curson, consistently in a spot where he can help him if he gets in trouble.
Yeah, and right now we have the Curse Bullet taken. As we said, the level 10 also really important for Malthael. Tormented Soul is the talent to take on him now.
It's ridiculously strong.
Yes, especially since we have him on level 7 with a touch of death. If you go with the Tormented Souls into a big fight, you are just putting your trait, the Reaper's Mark, on nearby enemies. And if you then just simply hit your 7, which isn't activatable, you can reduce the healing in team fights for your opponent's members by 50%, and that is insanely strong. So this is a great talent for Experts. Team fights are going to be strong for them. Red Web Weavers, by the way, descending, since Zealots were able to sneak the turn-in, exactly what they needed here, preventing the Experts from a double turn-in and getting one themselves.
Yeah, Zealots did a good job there of moving forward and healing out their opponents while hitting level 10 and then getting the drop-off. Now, what do they get with this turn-in, though? That's the thing. They're kind of missing out on this major deliverer of damage, some kind of auto-attacker that can move forward. Cassia is one of those heroes that has such a short range range that you can't force your way into killing a fort. You're going to have to get a kill or two. Luckily, they drafted Chromie. It's all about getting that mix-up, having Condemn come out, and landing those combos.
Zarmany is also playing a huge role. If he is able, with the Haka, to get a good tong, a good lick onto a hero and drag him in, that would be fantastic for them. And Chromie can really capitalize on it if that has been practiced properly. At this point, they're nearly on the same experience. And as we said already, Chromie is now moving in with a slowing stance here, trying to protect the Web Weavers. And they are doing well here at the wall.
Yep, Johanna is leading that charge. DRD doing his best here to drop Side Storm to help out the clear, but also to keep Johanna at bay with this Tickle Beam, trying to slow her down a little bit there, maybe force an Iron Skin. But Zealots are not quite biting to take out the entire wall here on the middle. Greymane defended the Web Weaver at the top. The only push that is available for the Zealots is in that bottom lane, but Malthael cleared up that Web Weaver as well.
And now we have Experts close to another turn in themselves, but both of the teams have still enough gems to get the second wave. Zealots have not died yet, so they hold on to all the gems they've been collecting so far in this game. Once again, Mopsio pushing them back and going straight for it. They're trying to drop AD It's not working out. Dimensional Shift is ready as he escapes. Cocoon is being used as we're seeing AD and his boys try to turn it around.
Dimensional Shift being enough here, and Expert does turn around. They get a pick on Johanna, looking for others. The Thorough comes in for the rotation. He's going to pop the Tormented Souls, and he is chasing Poik.
Poik once again trying to get back here. Aegis used already. The drag missing from Zarmany. Poik still low, gets the heal as Grand Paqueta saves him, and Shad connects with another big hit on the Sandblast, but Nick still has enough hit points here. Big skirmish in the middle of the map, and Expert coming out ahead with a kill and a level lead.
A kill and a level lead and possibly a turn-in. Yes, they get it. Bad Benny will drop off 4 of the gems, and they're going to group up as a unit as 5 and start to head towards potentially the middle lane here. Start getting pressure on their opponents, hit level 13. While Zealots, they have to recuperate. They're going to go ahead and put a few people on the top and start dealing with that pressure.
Yeah, so for now we have once more just trying to clear the waves and hit level 13 Talons. Team Expert is slightly ahead when it comes to the experience. They pick up the level 13 Talon faster than their opponent. We have Shroud of Wisdom taken on the side of Malthael, so now he can gain 50 spell armor for 4 seconds. A fantastic tool if you're up against Chromie in particular. So Malthael is all about the survivability at this point, and his real power unleashes on level 16, especially if he completed his quest talent. And he hasn't done that yet, but he is on 90 stacks of 140 that he needs in total.
Still has to be careful there. One of the major things that are a weakness for Thorough on that Malthael is, of course, burst that comes their way. Cassia and Chromie together should have enough to break through, even with the talent because they have it 13. But Team Expert for now, they are just steamrolling forward, breaking down the bottom keep wall, continuing to move forward. They're just absolutely breaking their opponents down, while Zealots, they're looking like they want to set up a flank, but with Expert disappearing, they're not quite sure where they're at, and they'll play the safe route.
It's a bit rough for them. They have the level 13 talent now. That was important, a really important step for them, and they attempt the next turn-in, but it's definitely getting just more difficult for them as time continues on, because we will see Malthael really get a massive power spike on 16, and that's the one thing that Zealots have to be a bit afraid of. They themselves, though, get the turn in, and now it's just a question how much can they accomplish with it.
Let's see if they can get anything here. They have yet to take out a fort, but they are set up and primed for an engage. Dahaka is not here, but remember, he can brush duck in at any point. Well, Expert will send Malthael to the middle to clear. Only 4 on the top for Expert for defense, but with them being near a wall, they have a great anchor for them to watch this push.
They really have a problem setting Poik up for a decent kill, and they tried it against ADRD earlier, but against Tassadar with a Dimensional Shift, it becomes tricky. It all happened around the Blessed Shield of Mopsio, so if they can set that up against maybe Nick on the Greymane, they might have a better chance here. But if Shad can poke them low, then Expert might lose a hero or 2 here. For now, on the other hand, the defense of Expert is still strong, and Zealots have to be worried about the potential turnaround with Bad Benny engaging with the Cocoon.
Yeah, you mentioned if Shad can hit members here, they can get Expert low and start to go in, but he's just not quite connecting. Finally, he hits a Q there, but it's too late. The entire Web Weaver's been cleared up. In fact, Team Expert was able to defend the middle lane and the bottom lane, so they continue to move forward in the experience lead. They're getting closer and closer to 16 and have another turn-in available. This is not looking good for the Zealots. They've gone through 2 turn-ins and have yet to get a fort.
Yeah, the Zealots, I think they're not too far behind in XP yet, but it's definitely one of those things where you have to start worrying quite a bit. Since Expert play a very disciplined game, and they know that once they hit 16, they have a massive power spike. We've been talking about Malthael several times now, but he's not the only one. We're talking about Uther, for example, as well. He, with his benediction, has a huge impact on this. So, It is getting a little bit tricky and dangerous for the Zealots, especially if Team Expert on level 16 gets the turn in, and they should.
Yep, they're going to start dropping off here. They had an opportunity to make a play there. We had Tassador's Dimensional Shift, who was afraid of a Chromie combo coming out, and it missed away from there, but Mopsio and crew didn't make the call to go in for the engage. Also, another moment where we could have had Chromie damage come out was the time trap, locking in the middle. But Chromie was sitting on a mount and didn't poke down the Anubarak. They seem to be a bit fearless, or they're a bit fearful to move in. They're so hesitant. I want to see them get a little bit more aggressive when 16 hits.
Yeah, and they will have the 16 for the defense very soon, but now Expert is ready. They have the 16, the quest talent on Malthael is not completed yet on level 4, but they're getting closer, they need another 50 stacks, and they are willing to jump into this fight now that he has picked up Memento Mori. So it is getting a bit more dangerous for the Zealots, but we have seen very few team fights so far. Only 2 kills in this entire game. Both teams played very, very cautious on this first map.
Yep, it's all about controlling the battleground, getting those web weavers to do the work for you. And Expert, and right now they have web weavers working for them. Middle of the map has a mercenary push, as well as a web weaver. They have the bottom lane opened up already from the keep wall earlier.
And Expert, they said it in the interview. AD was talking about how they respect Zealots a lot and they think they could lose this series depending on draft. So they are really showing a lot of respect to the opponent's team and not trying to... They're not taking them lightly by any means. They are sitting here saying, hey, this is a game we could lose. Let's make sure we treat our opponent with the respect they deserve here and not make any mistakes that they could exploit. And they've been doing this very well so far. They have taken down every single fort and they are starting to knock down the doors at the keeps.
I will say though, Zealots in their defense there was pretty stellar. They had Haka on the top working on that web weaver. They had Johanna clearing on the bottom, and then Chromie and crew just to fit in the middle. Solid job by the Zealots. They don't lose any keep. They lose one more turn that entire exchange, but they might miss out on this boss. Team Expert going in for it. It's going to be a bit too late for this journey to invite, but I want them to go in. Let's do it.
They could get the kills here, and they're trying to go for a Thero, at least for now. He jumps back already. It's in the middle of things. Popped his ult as is. Zarmony with 38 gems goes down. That's a big problem. Kirsten keeps himself alive as the ball of lightning jumps between targets. Aegis on... Oh my god, they're dropping the Aegis on Mopsio with this Johanna. But another detainment strike comes in. Chromie trying to get the kills, but Nick is already on Shad.
He's on Shad, trying to keep sieging here on the back left. Poik is just keeping everyone alive here with Ario just bringing out the hope, and they actually can get a kill here. Shad steps into the Sulling Sands. Can he get a shot here? He's going in for the Dragon's Eye. Does miss as Nick will dodge it, but here comes the Bronze Talons. Greymane is the only one left, but he falls.
Uther, Greymane both down. Chromie also falling. They still have Cassia and also, of course, Mopsio on the Johanna. AD the sole survivor as the boss moves towards the keep. 48 gems on Mopsio by now. They're still holding 68. That's an entire turn-in. And what looked at first as if Expert was lose the battle turns in favor of the Zealots. They take down Anubarak first here. Malthael jumping in, but they turn on a Thero next after Benny dies. And Grand Parquette, with one heal after another, is able to keep his team alive until the end.
Malthael's sustained damage just wasn't enough to kill an Ariel burst healing. We had Greymane jumping on top of Shadow, which is appropriate. You want to make sure Chromie's not sieging for free, but it did not allow for Expert to have the damage to actually win that team fight straight out. That Anubarak Burrow should have been a situation where Greymane gets those kills.
It was really well done here, and you know when Greymane got the kills, he just moved in. The moment that Chromie hit another volley, if he would have died a second or two earlier, there's a good chance that Zealots would have walked away with 3 heroes and not only 2 alive, and that would give them even more momentum. But this was the first big clash that we have actually seen in the game. So we have 4 kills against 5, but it is again about the Red Web Weaver. Zealots, they need to finally put their foot down and say, we are taking structures.
Well, they are on this journey to push across the map and finally get their first fort of the game. Can they do it? Web Weaver's right here on the front wall. Bad Benny taking damage on the top left side. Malthael is not here. Team Expert does not need to force a fight. They are 19 to 18. They can afford to lose some of these forts as long as they do it safely. Bad Benny consistently continues to get poked, but Greymane and Malthael are defending the Web Weavers in the other lanes.
And talking about Malthael, he has completed his level 4 talent, so the quest is completed. Extremely important for him. So at this point, he just doubled the duration of his Reaper's Mark. So right now, we have him with a lot of synergy between level 4 and level 16 talents, and he has already had a very big impact on the last fight. But it's still the Zealots who are currently driving the agenda here, and especially when we're looking at Chromie, the slowing stance really coming into play. But it's all about the bot lane, the last remaining Web Weaver of this push.
While we watch this push here, I gotta shout out ADRT. He has the mind of a Chromie player. I love how he consistently keeps moving up his Tassadar movements, so Chromie can't predict where he's going to move. There has been times where he just stood still the moment Chromie's dropped the Dragon's Eye, and then other times where he just moves to the top right or to the bottom left. He keeps changing the variety, because right now, Zealots are just looking to kill Tassadar first before they go into a fight.
If they can manage to drop ADRT on his Tassadar, it would be fantastic for them. That would be the best way to really finish these targets off. The shield has been so impactful. But for now, it's Zealots with the level 20 that they're trying to get. Expert already reached the Storm talent, and they have picked up what you would expect here on most of their heroes. We're having, for example, also the final curtain now taken for good old Malthael.
Zealots so far have answered back against Expert, who had a pretty solid lead going into that boss here. 20-20 from both of our teams. And while Zealots do have a weakened keep in the top right corner, they're still in a state here where they're on even footing in terms of infrastructure. There's one more fort for Expert, but they're in a spot. They have their keeps here. They can continue to move forward and get fights. And if they don't have to deal with another web weaver coming their way, they might not even lose those keeps.
Yeah, just to get a bit of a damage upgrade that we have here currently. And especially when you're looking at the hero damage of Tassadar, it is kind of fantastic. Archon, of course, helping a lot with it here. 200,000 siege damage, by the way, on the side of Greymane. So we've seen a lot of poke with the cocktail here to burst these waves down. But both of the teams are now on level 20 talents. And we are seeing battles that could at any point even decide the game if you can aim for an entire wipe.
Zealots are trying to get members in the back left, ADRD in particular, to use that dimensional shift. That's where we can have Mopsio move in and use that Blessed Shield. Drag connects on a Thorough. He's going to continue to chase here. He goes in for the harass on Zarmony. And boy, Dahaka, he's having a hard time here as he gets harassed consistently from Malthael.
Yeah, Zarmony is really struggling to find a good angle where he can go in for the drag. The big thing, though, is if he finds one, and they can follow up on the target, they can really blow someone up if the Divine Shield doesn't hit in time. Simply because you have the Chromie, you have the Blessed Shield as a potential follow-up, and if Cassia gets close enough to drop the Fen, then it's a massive amount of damage that connects.
Zealots trying to prevent Team Expert from dropping off their gems. Tassadar will get hit here with the drag. Dimensional Shift has been popped. Mopsio just dropped the Blessed Shield as well.
Yeah, Archon already being used on the side of ADRD. They're moving in. Their kill against Cassia. She's down, and so is Dahaka. It's a double kill as Expert is moving in, trying to stun out Chromie. Shed escaping for now, but Grand Paquette is isolated and dies.
That should definitely be a keep and potentially even the game here with the Greymane being up. 3 members down for Zealots. Team Expert heads to the top right, and they instantly make the call to burn down this keep.
Chromie is just trying to poke away from a distance, but Expert is mercilessly moving through the keep, not even hesitating for a second, moving towards the core and aiming to get the lead in the best-of-5 series. Mopsio very much alone with Chet attempting to defend here. A Divine Shield on Malthael as he is just about to fall, but the core is already dropping in hit points.
The core continues to drop. It's down to 80%. Chromie trying her best. Mopsio as well. Blessed Shield up in 2 seconds. He could set up an attack here, but it's not looking like it's going to be a possibility. Here goes Malthael forward. Greymane as well. The big condemn's not going to be enough as Bad Benny actually interrupts the combo from Chromie, and that's it. Team Expert takes game number 1.
Chromie falling at the end definitely sealed the deal. The core already about to die at that time. So we have the Experts taking the lead against the Zealots in a pretty even game, I would say. Especially towards the end, you could see that Experts can win those team fights. But Zealots, they definitely fought back hard.
Yeah, very drawn-out game, it felt like. Expert understands that Cassia and Chromie can be very great for burst, but also if you engage that composition, Cassia and Ariel can just really come online and start to destroy. So they played around the battleground, played the objective, and just kept Web Weavers pushing, and did their best to make sure that there was never an advantage available for the opposing team. And in the late game, we saw why it worked out for them.
It was a very cautious game that they played. So they waited for a long, long time, making sure that they wouldn't fall victim in the early game, and that one of their major strengths is Malthael. And just waiting for Malthael to complete his quest talent on level 4, making sure that he has a chance to capitalize on the level 16 synergy, and then they took it from there. So a very cautious game from both sides on level 1, but we have now, of course, the 1-0 lead on the side of the Experts in this best-of-5 series. But Zealots have shown, I think, that they can definitely take a game here if things go their way.
Yeah, I feel like poor Zarmony got bullied in that body lane. That early gank that came down on Dahaka made it much more difficult for him to have a comeback against the Malthael. But at the same time, like his team couldn't rotate down to help him out. Greymane kept clearing out those waves, was enough of a threat to say, hey, if you guys don't keep clearing, we'll get an Avenge on the top lane or even the middle lane. So hopefully going into game number 2, Zarmany won't have to deal with that pressure because Thorough just shut him down.
Yeah, Athero did a great job at the solo lane. And this is what they needed when they said, okay, we want Athero as our new player. They needed someone who is strong on those solo lanes and can win them. And that's exactly what he did right there. They have been showing their Malthael off already. And the question, of course, is going to remain how exactly the Zealots are now going to adapt. If they think this is a threat to us, we need to change things up, maybe even ban Malthael out on the second rotation, or if they just simply think, okay, if we play this a little bit differently, if we maybe get the rotations going towards the solo lane to help the Haka out a bit more, then we can have more of an impact, shut Malthael down, and then exploit an early game. So that's stuff that they have